Osho, Osho.
So, welcome, Sarita, to Historias com Osho. We are very happy to have you with us.
Yes, welcome, beautiful. Let's start. How did Osho come into your life and what happened next?
That is a very big and open-ended question. So maybe I'll tell a little story about it, because I think the story is also interesting. When I was very young, from the age of 4, I wanted to find the essence of life. And that became an all-consuming preoccupation for me. So when I was 15, I left my hometown and I started hitchhiking with a wonderful thumb. And that took me all through North America and then through Europe, overland through the Middle East, and finally to India. And I reached India when I was 17 years old. And there I was first introduced to Goenka and Vipassana meditation. And I really loved Vipassana meditation. My first retreat was in Bodh Gaya. And then Goenka was going to do a month-long retreat in Mumbai. So I went to Mumbai, which in those days was still called Bombay. That was in early 1973. And the night before my month-long Vipassana retreat, I met Krishna Prem. Some of you might know Krishna Prem. And he was in a backpacker's hotel with his girlfriend. And then we got to chatting. And then he said, "Oh, we're going to see a very interesting man tonight. If you like, you can come with us." So that man happened to be Osho. And it was an amazing situation. Like, I entered into that apartment in Mumbai. There was about 30 people dressed in orange, just sitting in silence. The walls were all lined with books. And as it was obvious that those were meditators, I just sat down and meditated with them in silence, not knowing what to expect. And then Osho came into the room and sat in an easy chair. He was wearing a white robe, and under the robe there was a lungi. He looked very elegant. And to my eyes, it really looked like he was floating or levitating into the space. He was so graceful, moving so slowly with a namaste, greeting everybody, sitting down in a pool of silence. And then he started commenting on the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. He was giving a series of discourses on that subject. So there I was, landed directly into discourse on Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, which blew me away absolutely and completely. And I still remember the sutra he was commenting on. The sutra was, "While engaged in sexual union, stay attentive on the fire in the beginning, and so continuing, avoid the embers in the end." He gave a 1.5-hour discourse on that sutra. And then afterwards, we all lined up in the hallway, and he passed between the people who were lined up, looking deeply into the eyes of several people, including me. He looked very deeply into my eyes for quite a long time. And then he just silently went on his way. And the next day, what was very surprising, my new friend, Krishna Prem, he invited me to do Osho dynamic meditation on the Chowpatty beach. It was held on the beach in public, basically. So I joined a few other people and we did Osho dynamic meditation, which for me was an absolute revelation. It was exactly what I had been looking for. And then after that, he invited me. So now you can come to Osho Shaktipat. And I said, oh, but I have to go to my month-long retreat. He said, no, but you still have time because this Shaktipat will be at 8 a.m. And then your retreat starts at 10 a.m. So no problem. And so I went along to the Shaktipat, which was also held on the beach, but in a kind of pavilion. We were instructed to take a marigold flower, to pour our ego into the marigold flower, and then to offer this to casts of Osho's feet. And this was really, really amazing experience. So I just offered, I didn't know exactly what ego is, but I kind of imagined it's something that's not serving me. So I poured it, whatever it is, into the flower. Then I offer it to his casts of his feet. They looked golden. I don't know what the metal was, but they appeared golden. And when I offered it to his feet, it was something like a thunderbolt coming through my whole body. I was absolutely stunned. It was so powerful. And then I stood and there was like 100 people there, and Osho appeared and he invited us to give him all of our suffering, to cry, to scream, to release, and to just offer him our suffering. And this was an incredible experience, which was in a sense very confusing, because who does that? Who stands there and invites people just to give them all of their suffering? And that went on for 20 minutes. People were howling, screaming, crying, and throwing out all of their agony and anguish. And then for the following 20 minutes, he invited us to lay down, and he simply poured love and compassion onto us, inviting us to feel the divine and to let it circulate within, to feel the bliss, which is our true nature, to allow love. And so for 20 minutes, he just caressed us with his voice and inviting this bliss and love. And after that, I went into my month-long silent retreat. So you can imagine my inner state. I was just cracked wide open. And it was actually very challenging to sit in silent meditation and witness all the bubbling, whatever, like what had been cracked open. And I actually needed more dynamic and more release. Of course, I also love the silent meditation, but I was very much needing to have catharsis.
You was too young. No,
Yeah,
at this
I was
time.
17 years of age.
Wow.
But
Hormones, Sarah.
I had a challenging childhood, so I had a lot of stuff to release. And it was my first introduction to the possibility of doing such a thing. So I survived that month. And then right after that, I went to Mount Abu, where Osho was offering a meditation camp. And during the meditation camp, I was initiated. And from that moment, I stayed in his community for 26 years. So
Wow.
I didn't leave, I just stayed, and that was it. Yeah.
Wow.
Tell us about your initiation, your name, meaning, and how was it to get sannyas from him?
Oh, it was divine. What can I say? When I came, I didn't even know that he's a guru. Like I had no idea. Just my friends told me, oh, he's doing some meditation gathering there. You can go. So I went. Of course, from Mumbai, that was a long train ride, etc. And then the day I arrived actually in the night, and I went to the hotel where the meditation camp would be held. And Sushila was there, and she approached me and she said, oh, you're coming for the camp, and are you a sannyas? And I said, no. She said, oh, so that means you'll be taking sannyas. I said, I don't know, what is sannyas? She said, but haven't you been reading his books? I said, I didn't know he has books. So she said, oh, that's not possible. You have to read a book before you do the camp. And she gave me the book, I Am the Gate. And she said, you have to read this before you see him tomorrow. So I stayed up almost all night reading I Am the Gate. Got completely blown away. And then the next morning was 6 a.m. was the dynamic meditation guided by Osho himself.
Wow.
And in those days, in those days, there was no CD, there was no music.
New
He
music.
just had a row of like 6 or 7 drummers. And those drummers were playing for almost the entire dynamic meditation. And Osho was guiding the dynamic, but he was also guiding the drummers, like getting them completely revved up and really into the drumming, so that it could be fast enough for us to go into the deep, fast, chaotic breathing, the catharsis, etc., the jumping up and down, hoo. So it was quite wild.
There's
And
not celebration at this time, the last stage of dynamic, or finish on stop.
there was the stop, and then we would freeze, and then after that, I'm trying to remember if there was a celebration. I don't remember,
Okay.
but I think there was some kind of celebration, like feeling the gratitude or something.
Okay.
And anyway, so that day, then I was scheduled to see Osho, and I didn't actually know about sannyas exactly. I was a bit confused because nobody was giving so much information. You know how sannyasins are, they don't really proselytize. So to get information is not always evident. And so then I just knew, okay, I'm having a meeting with Osho, and I went in to see him. And I still remember when I traveled, I used to wear a lot of braids. Like I had something like 36 small braids all over my head because that was very convenient to travel with. And when he saw me, he started laughing. And then the first words he said to me was, "Where have you been?" And I said, "I've been with Goenka." And where are you going? And I said, "I'm going to the Himalayas," because I had an idea to find the essence of life. I'll have to go to the Himalayas and find some guru or whatever. And I'd never thought I'm going to find him in Mumbai in an apartment. So I was just having my trajectory, my original plan, and then he said, "You come to Mumbai, it will be good." And then he asked me, "Are you ready for sannyas?" And I said yes, without knowing exactly what it is. And then he wrote my name, and he said, "If you continue with meditation, you will become this." And then he gave me the name Ma Ananda Sarita. And he explained Ma means mother of the universe, Ananda means bliss, and Sarita means river of bliss. So, and then he told me we're orange. So that meant, because at that time I didn't have any orange clothes. So then I said, okay. And that was it. And then I was joining the meditation camp, and we were allowed to see him during the meditation camp basically every day. So I could see him, and he asked me how things are going. And then he told me about coming to Mumbai and things like that. So it was, it was very, very powerful. And the name of the camp was Samadhi Sadhana Shibir, which means camp. He explained it as meaning camp for inner ecstasy and enlightenment. And so I was thinking, okay, by the end of the 10 days, I'll be enlightened.
Yes.
Whatever
simple.
enlightenment is, that will be happening in these 10 days. Little did I know, that was just the beginning.
Wow. And how was it next? And you also came to Oregon?
Yeah, then I was in Mumbai, and I in those days he would see people privately. That was the format. So I used to see him once or twice a week. And during that time, he would be giving some meditation to practice, or he would be checking up how is the meditation practice going. And like during that first year, I received many, many different methods, which I practiced very, very diligently. And I didn't know it at the time, but those were all Tantra methods that he was giving me. later on, I came to understand, oh, those were all Tantra methods. But
Wow.
in those days, he wasn't saying, okay, you're on the path of Tantra and here are the methods. Because people could find their own unique path according to their soul nature. And so maybe he was just letting people discover by trying this and trying that. And eventually they would understand that they're on the Sufi path or on the Tantra path or on the Zen path, whatever it was, because he is a master of masters. So all paths are alive in him. And so people coming from different soul calling, you could say, could feel at home and comfortable with him because of that.
That time was in Woodlands?
Yeah, he was in Woodlands in the apartment.
Okay. And then after that, Pune?
Yeah, then it was about a year later, he was moving to Pune. And he told me to go there and to arrive on X date and whatever. So I just went, I got a little accommodation somewhere, and then I was going every day. And at that time, there was only his own home, the Lao Tzu house. There was nothing else. And there was no group room or anything. So then he used to give meditations that could be done in the nature before there was any kind of meditation hall. And so, for example, he told me to do whirling for 2 hours every day. And I did it for about 6 months.
2
Whirling.
hours.
He
2
told
hours.
me to do it for 2 hours and then to lay down with my bare belly on the earth. And that was very, very powerful. Yeah.
Can imagine.
So I used to do it under a tree in a local park and just whirl for 2 hours and then lay down with my bare belly on the earth as he instructed.
Wow. That's very powerful, yeah. 2
Very
hours,
powerful.
really.
Yeah, whirling. Very, very powerful.
It's my
And
favorite meditation.
it's a bit challenging because it's on the bare earth, you know. So it's never completely even. So a little bit challenging how to whirl like that. And yeah, then later on he was making a CD, or sorry, in those days it was a vinyl record for the with the whirling music and instruction. And he asked me to be on the cover of it, probably based on the fact that I had had that deeper experience of whirling. And then, you know, I was just meditating for, I think it was at least a year and a half or something, only doing all the meditations, the active meditations and whatever meditations he had given me. And then at some point, told me it's time to work and to do work as meditation. And he invited me to work on a Zen path, which was being made in his garden. And so that's how I came to meet my husband to be, who was in charge of the Zen path. And that was very interesting because his words to me were, I want you to help Yatri on the path.
Mm-hmm.
There was Mukta sitting next to him, and she said, no, they don't need anybody to work. They have enough workers. And then he repeated to Mukta, I want her to help Yatri on the path. And Mukta still didn't get it. She kept on arguing that they don't need somebody and that I shouldn't go to work there. And he went on repeating, he had to repeat 5 times the same thing. And obviously he must have been indicating that he wants me to get to know Yatri better because that was who became my husband, and Osho married us also.
Wow.
Nah. Wow. How was it? I want to know.
Well, it was very simple.
Everything.
It was in a darshan with Osho, and he gave us a gift and a blessing for our marriage. And then we used to go and see him, and regularly we could bring our problems to him. So this went on for about 5 years. Like any relationship issues, we would bring to him. And he was guiding us in different ways in our relationship. It was very, very profound experience, extremely profound. And I believe it's all of these experiences that form the foundation of my being able to work with couples through Tantra, because I work with couples and also individuals on the Tantra path. And it's really rooted in so many rich and deep experiences with Osho and having him guide us so intimately and deeply in the relationship dynamic. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. What a beautiful story. What a beautiful path.
You're gonna tell us about your work later, but now we want to know about your life in Pune and also in the branch.
Yes. So in Pune, after working on the Zen path, I was given the job of being a cleaner in Osho's house. And that included also cleaning his bedroom. I was not the chief cleaner of his bedroom. That was another woman named Asta. But I was the, how would we call, the follow, the cleaner in the wings, like in case Asta needed to do something else at any time, then I would step in. So I did clean his room quite a lot. And that job lasted for 8 years. So that was my work as meditation for 8 years. It was extremely profound to do cleaning as a meditation, and in the master's house and also in the master's bedroom. It was very, very powerful experience. And for me, what was very important was disappearing as a presence in order to clean, so that I was having this kind of philosophy that when I enter the space should already feel clean just by my presence, that was the most important thing, and that the physical cleaning was secondary to that. So I was always very intent on trying to empty my mind before stepping into the space he inhabited, because I didn't want to leave any mental garbage cluttering up the energy in the room, you know. So that became a kind of very deep practice for me. I experienced that the outer cleaning was also a way of doing inner cleaning. But when I was in his room, I tried to keep pristine, no mind space, which was not always possible, but I endeavored to do that. I could say it like that. Very, very strong meditation. And again, that helps me in my work all the time, because when we're doing any kind of personal development work, meditation, we are in essence cleaning. It is a cleansing process, as Osho said so eloquently, that he's cleaning away what you are not and giving you back who you already are. And so this is part of the process of meditation, is cleaning away what we're not. And so I think it helps me very much in the work as well, these years of cleaning. And so I continued that job. And then after 8 years, I was given a job in the press office. And that happened on the ranch. Now, when Osho was going to USA, I was invited to be on the same flight with him, also in my role as cleaner, to make sure, I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but to make sure that the first class seat that he was in, or the first class toilet, was clean enough for him to be sitting in during the flight. So that was quite an interesting role, I would say. And then after he arrived, then I was sent to the ranch when there was only 20 people there, the first 20, to help prepare for him to come. So that was a very strong change, I could say. And it was actually very distressing for me, because it was not comfortable on the ranch in those early days. We were all sleeping in dormitory. So there was about I think, 18 men and only 2 women, one of which was me. And because they needed men to get out the heavy machinery and start digging and doing all kind of things. So in the early days, I was just working there. And then eventually when things started getting up and running, I continued cleaning job. And then eventually I was shifted to a job in the press office. So that was press office and PR. And I continued the press office and PR job for 7 years. That was on the ranch, but also once we went back to Pune 2, I continued the same job for some years. And then I shifted to healing arts and working in the field of holistic healing. But of course, on the ranch, to be in the press office, that was a kind of hub of a lot going on because the press was very implicated in the whole unfolding of events there. And so I was at the hub of, in regards to press and public relations and tours. We used to give tours on the ranch to just tourists, people that would come in that wanted to visit. So there was a whole arena where we would take turns giving tours to people and talking about the project. And also it involved giving public talks. So I had to go to like local Lions Club or maybe some university and give discourse on different things about the ranch and respond to questions, etc.
Wow,
And I'll just tell you a story that was very powerful for me. That I was sent to give a talk to one university, and there was a big amphitheater. So amphitheater means, you know, there's circular seating all around. And basically the person giving the discourse is down and has to look up to the people who are all around. And the people all around, they were from neighboring towns, etc. And they were very upset. They were very upset with the presence of Osho and the ranch and everything. And so they were literally shouting abuse, throwing things at me. It was a very violent kind of situation, volatile. And I remember feeling I was so alone and I felt so exposed and so naked. And I felt like I don't know how to handle this. So I sent a silent prayer, Osho, this is too much for me. Please help me. And the moment I said it, the most remarkable thing happened, that I felt him entering inside of me and I flew out of my body and I was just standing behind, witnessing, and he was inside giving the discourse through me. And what was very interesting was to see the whole crowd of people because at first they were shouting, throwing things, and then slowly they settled in their seats, slowly they relaxed back. Then they were very, very attentive, even leaning forward, wanting to hear every word. And at the end, I got a standing ovation.
wow.
However, because it was not me speaking, I didn't remember anything I said. So I could not remember. And they were crowding around me and saying, where did you learn public speaking? We've never heard anything like it. This is amazing. Please share with us how you were educated. You're so erudite and whatever. And I was literally blushing because what could I say? Oh, my master just spoke through me. No, I couldn't say that. So I just thanked them and, you know, really tried my best to answer. And it was a really remarkable experience. And since then, I never had any fear about public speaking. It ended all stage fright.
Wow.
And I've been in many situations of public speaking and presenting to, you know, hundreds of people, etc. And never again any stage fright after that experience.
Was it recorded?
No, it was not
No.
recorded. No.
Oh,
In
it would
those
be-
days, people didn't think about recording such things, you know.
Mm,
Yeah.
that would be beautiful to see, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because I have literally no memory of what was said.
Yes, I can understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I understand not remembering, not the whole situation. Yeah. I can
Yeah.
just imagine, but not
Yeah.
remembering, I can understand well. And did you go to other places like that? They were hostile, yeah, usually.
You know, there was a lot of hostility, and it was a kind of ever-growing hostility. So I never had something that extreme like that particular case. Usually people were more polite. They might be very agitated, but they would remain polite. But that one, they were not polite. And yeah, and so it was also very funny that as part of being a tour guide, we would get like regular people coming for the tour. And there was a comment that happened many times, not just once, many times. Are you putting something in the herbal tea, like a drug? Because we feel so happy and we can't understand why. Like when we come here, we feel happy. And then some other comment would come. I think it's all a show you're putting on, because I see people so happy here that it's not possible. It must be that you're putting on a show just for us, to pretend like you're happy just so we think you're happy. And I said, no, I assure you, we're actually really like that. And we are literally happy. And then the next suspicion is there must be some drug being put in the tea.
That's I was going to ask you because I've seen something journalists saying that while being with Osho. Yeah.
Yeah, they thought there's some drug. They just couldn't understand what it is to be in the presence of an enlightened being. Yeah.
So you stayed to the end of the ranch.
Yeah, I was there till there was only 6 people left.
We interviewed
Wow.
Subhuti some days ago, and
Mhm.
he also tells us that after Osho left, he stayed for a while still.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
same for you.
Yeah, I was there while Osho was on the world tour. And also because they thought maybe I have to answer questions from the press, etc. So that was my main role, was during those 6 months, I had to keep on with the press work.
Until Osho went back to India, you stayed at the ranch. Is that
I
so?
was at the ranch, and then eventually the ranch everything was winding down. There was only 6 people left, and then I left with a group of friends, and we went to Aspen, Colorado, and we opened our own cleaning company. So we were cleaning for a while. Then eventually I went to Florida. I worked for a doctor who was also a sannyasin. And then I went back to Pune. But it was not so easy, because when I went back at that time, the Indian government, if they knew somebody was an Osho sannyasin, they would turn them away. So I was turned away at the border when I reached there. And then from there, I went to Sri Lanka. And then finally, I came back into India from Sri Lanka. So it was a very arduous situation, because in Sri Lanka, there was a war. So it was not so easy. And I faced many, many difficulties to come back.
Yes, Nivedanu told us something about that, going through the border of Nepal or something, and it was
Yeah.
very hard to come into
Yeah,
India.
it was very, very arduous. And finally, I made it. And so then that was a great relief. Yeah.
What year was it that you went back?
That was, what was it? That was 87.
87.
Yeah. So he left in, I think it was late 85 or something when he left the ranch. And so it was basically a year, something like that, that I had to be somewhere else.
Yes, before going to Pune, he went to Bombay first, yeah?
Yeah, he went to Mumbai, then he went to Pune. So it was early on in Pune too that I reached.
Mhm.
How do you see the Pune 2 stage, let's say, of Osho's work? What's the
Well,
difference between the previous ones?
you know, there were many difficulties that were faced because in the beginning, when Osho came back to Pune too, the local authorities were trying to harass him very badly. And I don't know if you know about this whole story with Morarji Desai, that Morarji Desai was the prime minister and he was very much antagonistic towards Osho and trying to create as many problems as possible for Osho. And the story is that earlier on, when Osho was younger, he used to travel all around India doing debates, which is a very ancient Indian tradition. It's a very noble kind of tradition where mystics would get together and debate, and whoever was the winner, the other one would become the disciple of the one who was the winner. So in that way, India in general kept refining its spiritual wisdom through these debates. So Osho was following that
Right.
tradition in a sense of being a debate artist, and he always won debates because he could argue from either side and be very, very eloquent and prove his point. It didn't matter which side he would take, he could always win. And so at one point, he was put with Morarji Desai in a debate. And from what I understand, he really creamed him, like completely destroyed the opponent through the debate process. And that Morarji Desai was a very sore loser and always held the grudge against Osho after that. So that may be part of what was behind it. But he was really getting persecuted in those early Pune 2 days. But in spite of that, and in spite of his health deteriorating, it was a most marvelous time, full of, like, really full of very profound celebration, creativity, an outpouring of new forms of creativity in the ashram. Yeah, that's when the mystery school opened, and there were many different things going on. The musicians really coming into full flowering. I remember hearing music and so many times feeling, oh, this music has to go international. It's not possible. It's only for us. It's so beautiful. And then, of course, afterwards, so many of our Osho musicians went out into the world and spread their tremendous talent.
Yes, we are very fond of Osho's music.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I used to say that that music is enlightened music.
Yes. It's
So beautiful.
amazing. Really, really amazing.
Amazing, amazing. A great team of musicians were there in Pune too, yeah?
Yeah. And then, of course, Osho developed the Mystic Rose, the No Mind, Born Again, incredible genius methods giving to the world. And then at a certain point, I think it was from about, it was from 1989, I started getting very deeply involved in healing, in the healing arts. And in 1990, I transitioned over from being in the press office to being in the healing arts primarily. And that continued. And then gradually from there, I got into teaching Tantra. Because at a certain point, it was one of the questions you had raised earlier, when in our communication, you said like something about how did I get into Tantra? And basically, I was giving a lot of healing sessions and teaching color light therapy. In those days, it was called color puncture. So I was teaching that and giving sessions. And a lot of the issues that people came to healing sessions with were all around sexuality, love, relationship, And I came to realize that at the roots of any kind of physical imbalance, there's usually relational kinds of issues. And then it dawned on me that all these different methods that I had learned from my own personal evolution, which were Tantra methods, that these would be very useful to people who were coming for healing. And so gradually I started teaching some of those methods to my clients and then weaving them into groups, because I was also teaching color light therapy. So I would start weaving some of the methods into the groups. And then eventually people were so fascinated by the Tantra aspect that the Tantra took over. It happened organically.
Wow. Did you study color puncture directly with Peter Mundell?
Yeah, for 7 years.
Wow.
I was completely immersed in the color light therapy, deeply, deeply immersed. Yeah. And I still practice it today. I still love it the same. It's just that the Tantra took over. And so now the color light is more a complementary method that I use by the side.
That's beautiful.
Wow,
And
what a story.
And another thing that I forgot to mention about Pune 1, I was also one of Osho's mediums. And I'm
wow.
sure you've heard all about
Yes,
the
Gayan
darshans.
told us about
Yeah.
it.
So very, very powerful experience, which has helped me tremendously in terms of teaching Tantra as well, because essentially that was a very powerful Tantra initiation that was going
Yes.
on there.
I can imagine that. You give nowadays training, and how is it, your work?
Yeah, I've been it's been now since 1998 when I left the commune in 99, but already from 98 I was teaching a lot in Europe or Japan. So I used to go, and also UK, Europe, Japan. So since then, I've been teaching 7 levels for couples. It's called the soulmate training for couples. And I also teach women. I teach individual, different kind of groups. Also the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, the 112 methods of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. And I teach that as 3 times 10-day groups. So it takes 3 years, one group every year, and you can cover the 112 methods.
Wow.
And I have a Tantra teacher training and a Goddess Essence teacher training, and also something that's very new is the Tantra and Yoga teacher training. So these are teacher trainings and numerous other kind of groups, Tantra transformation, master lover. So there's wide range of different offerings, you could say.
Wow. Where does this training take place?
Mainly in Bali, but I also teach in India and sometimes in Thailand. And then I'm working with a team who have trained with me. So there's people teaching in Europe also.
Wow.
People teaching in Europe, in Japan, in India, people from my team.
Wow, wow. I want to meet you in Bali, maybe one day.
That's a beautiful place, yeah, Bali.
Yeah.
We usually ask people to say, how did it change for you as a sannyasi after Osho left his body?
So after he left his body, basically I carried on the same. I remained in his community another 9 years. However, I had a disagreement with the management, the new management, we could say. And so I ended up getting banned in 99.
Wow.
Yes.
And then since then, I haven't been back to Pune.
Yes, we heard lots of stories on that.
The same.
Usually talk. I used to talk with Chaitanya Kirti, who is leading the rebels there.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. The thing is, I was very close friends with Nilam, and so she got banned, I got banned. Like there was a lot of people who got banned around the same time for disagreeing with the management there. So these things happen, you know, in life, what to do. And
Yes.
I just decided, okay, I'm leaving the Buddha field, but the Buddha field is inside of me.
Yes. Yes.
So I
Yes.
can share this Buddha field wherever I go. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, you spoke about Nilam. We interviewed Priya, and she also told us something about that, but that's not the subject of our interview. So
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have to get into that because it's
Yeah.
also boring, all these,
Yes.
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
management or political subjects.
Yes. Yes.
The most important thing is that Osho is still spreading his nectar in the world in one way or
Yes.
another.
Yes. 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 And how do you see Osho's legacy today?
I remember very well that at some point he said he has no contemporary and that he will not have a contemporary for another 200 years. That was not too long before he left his body. I heard him say that. So I think what's happening is that, you know, Osho's way of being is so vast that there's not one person who can carry all of it. So all of us sannyasins are carrying some part of that. And together, all together, that is the whole Osho. But we see many different flowers in the garden of Osho, all spreading some part of the fragrance. We could say it something like that. So somebody's more oriented with the Zen, somebody with the Sufi, somebody with Tantra, or whatever it is, whatever they have absorbed from the master, that much we can spread. And so it's like that. And I'll just tell you a little story. When he left his body, I was there, and so I was staying at the burning ghat till around maybe 3 in the morning. And then I went back to my room and I was going to sleep. And then at the sunrise, I dreamed that I was standing outside and I was looking. It wasn't sunrise yet, it was like just before dawn. And I saw a huge lotus flower in the sky, all the colors of the rainbow. It was luminous white, but it had inside of it all the colors. And I recognized this is Osho's true body, that the other body was just an illusion, and this is his true body. And then as I was watching this rainbow, this lotus, it started showering all the colors of the rainbow all over the earth. And I understood that in this form, he will be able to be much more effective and that I shouldn't mourn. So this was the message I received. And then I was lifting my arms and shouting, Osho, Osho, Osho. And then I woke up shouting Osho. But then that dream, I couldn't mourn. It was not possible. But that in itself was very challenging. So after a year, I had a dream that I was crying and I was saying to Osho that I know that your true body is not the physical, and that you're showering blessings all over the world. So I know that, but I miss touching your feet. And then that missing to touch his physical feet, it gave me permission to cry. So then I could cry, but that was in the dream. It was very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another plan.
Yeah. Very, very, very touching.
Another.
That's beautiful what you're saying, that's pure Osho. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. And people, you know, when I do groups, I think it happens to many Osho sannyasins who teach, that the people in the groups, they feel Osho's presence. So I've heard it about other sannyasin teachers as well, that people are doing the group with that teacher and then they suddenly feel like Osho is there. And this happens many, many times, that
Yes.
we feel his presence.
Yes.
And
Yes. Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it.
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
You know, that's amazing. I used to call musicians to play Osho songs wherever center I am in working, and it's always happened.
Yes, with the musicians. Yes.
It always
Definitely.
happened.
And it always happens also with giving Osho sannyas. Whenever I'm offering the sannyas ceremony, Osho appears. Definitively. There's no question about it. And everybody, yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
Master are with us.
Yeah.
Energy, fear.
And, you know, in the groups, sometimes people, they really connect with him very strongly, and they tell me he appeared and he gave them instruction and things. While they're doing some meditation, whatever it is, they feel him appearing. So this is very mysterious. It's part of the mystery school work. Yeah.
And a miracle too. Like a miracle.
Yeah, it is.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It's beautiful. What a story. What a wow.
Sarita, we always end up our interviews with one last question. I think Divya is going to ask you that.
Go for it.
One word for Osho.
It's my, you know, it's basically my gratitude and my tears from the heart of gratitude. That's all. Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing your beautiful stories, a little bit of it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And in case somebody wants to know about my work, I'm with my website is anandasarita.com, and my work is called Tantra Essence. So people can find me very easily through those keywords.
Also in Instagram, yeah?
Yeah, also on Instagram, Ananda Sarita.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, beloved.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Really a pleasure to connect with you.
Was a very significant moment here for me to hear you, and I can feel Osho's presence in this interview too.
Thank you.
Osho.
Osho, Osho, Osho.
Osho!
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Sweetheart, beloved.